just love when I have the opportunities to sit and chat with the both of you. It's been quite some time since we've, sat and we've chatted about your career. First of all, I want to welcome you back on my show, but this time on my fabulous gold couch.
Yes, this is an upgrade, and it's fancy. It's bling. It's bling for sure.
No words. I have no words. Except that it's so nice to be here with you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. So, for all those people out there who, haven't gone as back far with your journey as, obviously I have. I mean, we're kind of like the OGs, you guys in music, me, of course, in media. I want to kind of go back and just kind of create a little bit of context on, how tremendous your journey has been and how long it's been, and truly kind of, give people a perspective on how to create and sustain brands for such a long period of time, because obviously we live in the time of social media, and there's just a lot of destruction that's happening. There's a lot that's been going on over the last 5 years, definitely. But what about the brands that really kind of started the game and has kind of changed the trajectory, globally speaking, when it comes to the South Asian community, people like yourselves with Josh. I want to kind of go back and talk a little bit about why did you guys kind of decide to come together?
Journey of ours is almost nearing 20 years, and this is something that recently I was reminded of, because somebody was asking me when did we start going full time, and it was around the 2000, 2001 time frame, and I think that 20 years is a long time, but I think in that time we've gone through a lot of, it's been a colorful journey, to say the least. But to touch upon something you said, our intent to start was not ever as a Pakistani Indian or people from different sides of the border working together. We just looked at it as two South Asians who like music, enjoy doing music. We're happy to be the face of something positive that has been carrying us throughout the journey, but other than that, it's the intention of music.
We come from a small town on the south shore of Montreal, and for two brown guys to meet who both like Desi music was enough. That was just, we couldn't ask for anything more at that point. And, like you said, we're going back 20 years. And so our intention was never this. Our intention was just to make good music, and then good things come from good intentions. And to answer your question, just to let the millennials know who we are, Josh has been around for almost 2 decades now, and we've sold a couple of million albums, and the journey's been amazing. And it'd be great if people would want to, look us up on Spotify and just, revisit or just visit for the first time some of our music that has brought us to where we are today.
It's really interesting that you guys say this, because although, it wasn't purposeful that, a Pakistani came together with an Indian, Muslim with a Sikh, that dynamic has created a very unique sound. Like the Josh sound, as much as when you first hear it, you think, okay, Bhangra, or you think maybe a bit of Sufi in there. But that uniqueness from both of your individual cultures has kind of created a new fused sound.
What's interesting about that, and I'm glad you touched upon that, because in our case, I think it was uniquely different also, because I was living in Pakistan, and then I moved to Montreal, where Roop is originally born and raised. And I was listening to rock, living in Pakistan, and I was into Pearl Jam, I was into grunge and stuff like that, before that Guns N' Roses and all that stuff. And then I come here, and we meet, and we talk music and stuff like that, and he's completely into Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and Qawwalis and stuff like that.
What's your favorite Eddie Vedder song? I'm like, Eddie Kaun? And I was like, Eddie Vedder, does he do Qawwali? And he doesn't do Qawwali. And I introdued him to his music.
Which is,
Canadian music to me,
it should have been the complete opposite, right?
Right.
If you think about it, like he should be into that form.
And then for us to agree on a certain song, we both have to like it, and because we come from completely different backgrounds. I learned Kirtan, I learned Tabla at the Gurdwaras, and that common denominator when we like a sound together is what you hear in Josh.
Absolutely, but it's carried you through the years. I mean, you guys have won over 25 awards globally. Enoki, of course, being one of them. Do you guys remember that epic performance at our 10th anniversary?
It was so much fun.
When you guys had the choir, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, we had a great time. That was definitely a memorable performance.
It's still spoken about. It's still spoken about. Just last week, somebody was, saying that it's still, till today, never seen a choir with, I think we had maybe 4 different percussion, 4 guitarists.
Yeah, exactly. We had cajones, we had Spanish guitars, and then the choir came in and stuff like that. So
that's one of my favorite awards actually.
But
of the night, Band of the Decade is pretty dope.
Yeah, I will say this.
You guys,
there's something, that we were able to do then, because the audience that we had at that show would get everything. Sometimes I think that the nuances would be lost if the event was not the way it was, and we're happy to have that opportunity to do that, and then we always get refreshed with new ideas, because living in Canada, because a lot of people say, hey, you guys always travel there, why not just move there? And I think that, besides that being a bigger decision, this being where we are always gives us new things to kind of put in our music, insert in our music and stuff. So I'm happy about that.
It's been really interesting though, because even though you guys are a Canadian band, your following in Pakistan and overseas is incredible. Talk to me a little bit about how that came about. Was it kind of organic? People started to kind of call you for concerts and things, because you guys are very much a live concert setting kind of group. I mean, and I want to kind of make that distinction, because there's a lot of artists out there who are recording artists, but they're not really artists that you would go and see live and get that kind of sense of something extra, which we do get with you guys.
Thank you. That means a lot to us, because we thrive on that, as you said. At the beginning, we never knew that we had made it big on the other side of the world. We had no idea. There was no Instagram to tell us, there was no Facebook to tell us, or WhatsApp messages. I remember distinctly doing a concert with a band called Strings and Euphoria and Josh, three of us in Toronto. We were in Montreal, but we flew here for the show. And the next morning after the we were fans of these guys, And gentleman who's the lead singer of Strings, his name is Faisal Kapadia, and he was at the breakfast buffet, and I was like, whoa, that's Faisal, and I want to go say hi to him. And when I went to get breakfast, I remember him taking my name and saying, your song is blowing up there. And I was like, hold on one second, I just want to tell him. And I was like, I didn't even talk about the song. I was like, he knows my name. But that's what it was back then. We didn't know. And then our song with Nelly Furtado, Powerless, it went to the top of the charts in India.
Wow.
And not only in Bombay, but it went on the top of it went everywhere.
I think UK liked that too.
UK did well.
You know what? Initially, we used to get, people didn't know where we were from, and we used to get a lot of questions. Yeah, people used to think, they would assume initially that we're from the UK, because
to be honest, that's what I thought, guys. When I first heard your music and it kind of came across my desk, I was like, this is a different sound. Where are they? Normally the sound kind of betrays where the person's from. You can tell if they're kind of from India versus other parts of the world, and I just couldn't figure out where you guys were from. And when they said that these guys are from Canada, I was blown away.
I think from a sound perspective, you bring an interesting point. Being removed from a place where the Desi sound was coming from. I think if we were living in India, for example, at that time, it was a very Sukhbir, Diler Mendi kind of high tempo sound, And I think we would be a little bit more influenced by that. I think we were maybe braver because we were living in Montreal and we were listening to the music, but we were kind of free to do whatever. Because we were not being bombarded by, oh my God, this is the hit, this is the hit, this is the hit. Are we doing something wrong? You know what I mean? So I think that definitely helped. But other than that, as Roop mentioned, we still get that question, okay, are you from India, UK, this and that. So, but Canada is the place, yeah.
But it's interesting because your albums have all been very interesting to me. They've almost felt deliberate. And when I say that, I mean, each album is very different. Each album also kind of tells a story. Now, with two very, very, I know you guys, two very, very strong-willed, strong-minded, very specific artists that you both are. How are you able to kind of really decide what the feel and the vibe and the storytelling was going to be for each of these albums? Bearing in mind the fact that, these albums have all been very distinctly different from each other, but have had that kind of Josh, underlying kind of tone to all of them.
Well, I think, look, personally, I don't put that much thought in defining the album. I think that the albums are more like, this is where we are in life, and this is the music we've been listening to. So it's a direct kind of translation of that. You know,
almost.
Yeah.
So that's the definition.
That is it. Yeah, that's always been the case for us, I think. And the things that help us.
How do you agree, though? Like, how do you guys agree?
You know, lyrically, so here's the thing. I'll tell you, our process is that, okay, if I make a groove, I will have Roop hear it. And either he'll like it or he won't. You know, there's no like second guessing that process. So if it starts with him saying, yeah, I like this, then we build on it. And lyrics are something that we kind of decide on right at the very end. And when it comes to the subject matter of the song, luckily we have that's our strongest commonality, where whether it's like we need to talk about if it's spirituality or if it's some romance and stuff like that, we definitely connect at that level. So it's easier to agree upon that. And you know, and I find that the music kind of dictates that. If there's a vibe in the groove, then we'll be like, you know, I think this song should be about this, and then, you know, we will do that. So I think that whole process has been more natural for us, for me at least. But I don't know, maybe Roop thinks differently.
Roop, what about the collaborations? Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, you just touched a little bit about Nelly Furtado. That was just an incredible percussion. I mean, it's so well kind of infused in people's minds, that version of her song. Talk a little bit about, you know, how specific or not you guys are when it comes to collaborating with other artists.
So in general, we like to just collaborate with friends, and it just happens. But if I was to be completely honest, we weren't buddies with Nelly Furtado at the time. And we were watching the Grammys, and she sang Kabhi Kabhi in Hindi on the Grammys, right? It was an award show.
Yeah.
And we both looked at each other, you know, like, okay, obviously she likes Desi music. She's Canadian. And no joke, the next day I started with Google, Nelly Furtado management, and started making the calls, started sending the emails, and we were relentless. And in fact, I'll just quickly sum up the story. She was pregnant at the time, and we got a reply saying, you know, it's too bad. You know, your story looks good. You guys have done well in India, but she's, you know, not ready at this point, and her album is full. It's complete. And so that was fine. And just a couple of days later, and I remember having MSN, the messenger, and it was just like started where emails would pop up, and it said email from Christmas Management, which was Nelly's management at the time. And I opened it up, and it said, listen, there's one song, we think it could have a cool Indian vibe to it. Do you guys want to take a shot at it? And we did. And 48 hours later, there were CDs in the mail.
Yeah, they sent us everything, but they gave us 2 days. They were like, you got to send this back.
24 hours.
Yeah. And we're like, what? And you know what? Again, now when I reflect back on it, it was less time to think. It was all instinctive. Just hear it.
Pure vibe.
You know, we didn't even. So they didn't.
Is that your magic then? Is that what? Like,
it becomes magic.
Yeah, it has to be. It is less.
To write a hit, you can never write a hit.
Yeah, it has to be instinctive, right? And in that time, the other thing is they sent us all the layers, all the stems, but they did not send us the beat of that song, because the beat was a sample that they had taken, which was copyrighted. So when I heard the song, just like all the tracks, I heard Powerless without the beat. And I was like, you know what, this melody I think it deserves a beat. So it was just like, okay, I think I'll try this, da-da-da-da-da. And it just kind of happened, and we sent it. And then we didn't hear back from them.
We also sang on the track.
Yeah, which was different.
They didn't think we were going to do.
Yeah.
We added our own melody in the song.
Yeah.
And I think when Nelly heard it, she's like, okay, we're putting it on. They took all the albums that were already shipped to India. They took them back, put the song on, reshipped them, and it went gold. It went gold in India. Nelly's never had a gold record in India.
And you know what's funny? Something Roop touched upon was that we didn't know all this was happening in India. You know, we didn't know that the song had made it so big and stuff like that. We really only realized it and found out completely when we landed in India to release our own album, you know. And because she was a Universal artist and we were signed with Universal and stuff like that, we get to the studios and we're preparing for the first song of our album. And they're like, you know what, it's been great because you already have this hit, so we can just write off that. We're like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah. How did this song even come here?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like people listen to Nelly Furtado in India, they're like, they do now.
Yeah.
And
which
it was
awesome.
cool because
do
Nelly...
But do you guys think that you had something to do with that because of your Indian beat, something that was very kind of...
Oh yeah. I mean, that was the whole reason. But because of that, we got all three of us. We went to India and performed, at on New Year's in Bombay at the Andheri, cricket stadium, 90,000 people, and she left that song for the end. And then we were just like, there's one song left. Does anybody know it? And there's 90,000 people are screaming.
Yeah, this was a familiar sound for India. Powerless, the original version was, I think, too modern in ways that they weren't getting it. It was too Canadian folksy. And so this remix kind of just like made it like, oh, this I can digest. And it just kind of worked. We were all kind of blessed because of it.
Absolutely. So here you are now, two guys in Canada, almost kind of, isolated, for want of a better word, and kind of creating your own sound and going with kind of, what your gut tells you sounds right. Mm-hmm. And then you land in India, you land in Pakistan, and all of a sudden you realize that you are like these huge stars. It's really interesting because I remember a number of years ago when you guys did 3 specific commercials with Samsung. Like,
right.
I remember that.
Right.
And it was huge. It was on billboards and things.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about that because, you expect to get something like that in the country that you're in, right? Not, abroad.
Right.
So that's kind of, I felt that was kind of a really unique and innovative thing that Samsung kind of brought that to the table and took you guys and decided that out of all the artists that, you guys would be the ones that they would work with. How did that come about?
We were shooting a music video here in Toronto, and one of the scenes in the music video had a phone, and I was reading a text. And so I had my Samsung, and I asked our director to take an over-the-shoulder shot of it and close up on that, because the idea was we'll go to Pakistan where we're releasing this video, and we'll pitch it to Samsung and say, do you guys want to sponsor the video? And so we did. Because we're well known out there, getting a meeting with brands is not difficult. They were okay with it, and we went. Turns out the room was full of Josh fans, and they liked it and they jumped on it. That's what started our relationship with Samsung. And then when the time came for them to do a new campaign, they wanted a campaign where they could reach out to the masses. And for some weird reason, we reach out to the masses. We connect. They connect with us. Maybe it's just the truth. Maybe it's just the honesty of what we do and in our music. But they tried a campaign with us, and it worked so well that we did 3 altogether.
And I think one of the things like Roop was saying, that because we connect with the masses and they wanted that connection, they got us to do the jingle. They didn't usually it's like they will use another artist, but they'll use just the artist, the likeness of the artist. But with them, they were like, what? So one of the things that Samsung did, because they did realize that we have a connection with the masses, is that they wanted our sound to be in the jingles as well. So generally they would use an artist for their likeness, and then they would get a jingle made and whatever, but they got us to make the jingle. They wanted that Josh melody and our voices and stuff like that. So I think that authenticity translated in the commercials we did with them, which was.
But that was kind of
cool.
Innovative
Yeah.
During those times to do that much of an integrative concept.
For
I mean,
sure.
it was very innovative
Yeah.
to kind of really do it in that way. So here you guys are again in Canada, Samsung Canada, and you guys are working on their current project. And tell me how that came about, Galaxy A series.
Yeah.
And the Capture Your Journey story. Tell us a little bit about what that is, and why did you guys decide that this is something that you wanted to do here in Canada, as opposed to the market that you kind of started working with them in?
Samsung Canada approached our agency, Ethnicity Matters, with the idea that they wanted to reach out to newcomers who have come to Canada with their Galaxy A series, which has some really cool features with video and excellent enhanced video and camera. Because they realize that newcomers need to connect to back home, and they're on a new journey. And so the whole concept of it was something where they wanted to reconnect and capture what's going on in the future. And so when Ethnicity Matters proposed Josh, who have already been in a relationship with Samsung, it kind of made a lot of sense. First of all, they were astonished at the fact that we had already been brand ambassadors for the brand, and they didn't know about it. So this was something they said, we think all of Canada should know about this, not just a certain community, but everybody should know about this because it's quite fascinating. And so we were very honored when they reached out to us and asked us to do this because, when you get recognition from home, it's really something that hits home. You know what I mean?
I think that to add to that, one of the things that that I personally found really cool was that they just wanted to tell our story. Like when they heard everything that we have done and stuff like that, like they saw the Samsung campaigns that we've done, but they found that there's enough color in our history that will connect with this the newcomer to Canada and stuff like that, and that was a wonderful thing for us, because going back in time, revisiting our history kind of made me realize that, oh my God, we've gone through a lot of fun adventures in this journey, and throughout that journey, we were able to capture that journey because we always had, not maybe in the earliest days, but as soon as possible, a device with us that kept us, was able to kind of transcribe our journey. So that, and then the whole lesson of like, we never gave up. We're not from entertainment families, we had to kind of hustle and still hustle and all that stuff. So they found that nice enough that they didn't have to do anything more than just be like, let's just tell that story honestly.
And becoming the first Desi band to have a brand ambassador deal in Canada.
Right, mainstream.
Was something we never really thought about. We never expected. But the fact that it's happened, and the amount of love that we received after the release of the first video, which is one of 4, has been something that's just tremendous. And we want to thank Samsung, of course, and Ethnicity Matters for doing this with us.
And we were discussing this today. It's a very, like you've been an ambassador for the South Asian community, and because of our music, we're South Asian, so we've always had this like positive face, as you mentioned. But for a community to have that power where a mainstream Samsung Canada says, you know what, we are going to make a campaign specifically for this community. I think it's a proud moment for our community in this area and stuff, in the GTA and stuff, where they're really pushing this, and it just makes us feel very proud that we're the face of that first innovation. And then hopefully many other brands will follow in, paying attention to that market.
Absolutely, and you just mentioned that there's 4 parts to this story.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about these 4 parts.
Well, the first one is just our story. They're small 2-minute videos, and the reason we had kept them short was so that we can have shareable content, so that you could share this story with people. The 4 videos are, as I said, the first is our journey. And just our basic story for those who don't know who Josh is. Then we have one video which is how we use our phones on a daily basis, a day in the life of Josh. The third one is about how we travel and how we use our devices to keep in touch with our families, to do music while we're traveling, keep notes, take photos, take videos, all that. And the last is celebration. How he's on stage saying Happy Diwali, I'm on stage saying Eid Mubarak, and then with our families here we have a beautiful turkey dinner in Canada, and that's actually my favorite one because the kids are in it.
Yeah.
And so those are the 4 videos.
That's amazing. So what do you feel people should actually really get from your journey, and just kind of maybe some inspiration behind, the possibility that you can hold on to your roots and your culture, right? And still get kind of, recognized by the big multinational brands as really that's what this story is about.
I think that one of the things that I really resonate towards, and I repeat this, is that this is about capture your journey. The reason that's the line is because everybody has their different journey. All we're telling is our story. Doesn't mean that anybody, in my opinion, should emulate that or go after that, because that doesn't work. What is your journey? What are your experiences? Capture those as your experiences come along, and then one day you'll look back and you'll have all of those, and you'll be like, wow, look at what, where things have come from. So I think that is the narrative that, to me, should really connect with the people, and the fact that when we tell our story about in these 4 episodes, it's not just all about the glitz and the glamour. There is a lot of, like, as Roop mentioned, like one of them is missing, like being in touch with our families and stuff. There's a lot of missing our families that happens, and a day in the life of a recording artist requires a constant, like, on the go, a little bit tired, sleep wherever you can, wake up and all that stuff. And that's our journey, and we've signed up for it, and we proudly do it when we get a chance, So that honesty is being captured in this campaign, and I hope that everybody gets that, you know.
I think they definitely will, and I definitely love capturing your journey, the both of you. This is probably, like the third or fourth time that we're sitting here and chatting, and every single time that we sit and chat, I love the fact that there's always so much that's happened since the last time that we were in conversation.
Well, now you have a solid gold couch, so, you know, I mean, that's a lot. Right?
All this happened. Yeah, exactly. Zoom in on that over there for a second.
Oh my gosh.
That's the next episode, okay? We're going to talk about all your accolades and awards, which are amazing.
My accolades and awards is about telling your guys' story. That is really what, you know, makes my purpose, you know, in what I do just so relevant and important to me, and also to you know, our community out there, because it's important to always have platforms to be able to tell our stories. And you know, it's the reason why, you know, collaboratively we're able to just keep moving and never losing who we are as a community, right? Because it's constantly changing. But what is that change, and how do we make sure that we don't kind of lose the authenticity of who we are as people within the multiple facets of the different cultures that we're a part of
right.
today?
And one of the things I always appreciated that you were an ambassador of, which is that, like, we have chosen a career path which is not common. I mean, yes, there's many more emerging artists that are, you know, of South Asian descent now, but especially at the time we started, we were just like, everybody is, you know, especially our families, they're like, yeah, come on, man, like, are you serious? Yeah, nothing's gonna happen. Like, keep it as a hobby and give it up when you're, you know, when you're graduated. But we kind of stuck with it, and it happened. So if you have an alternative career path that you really want to pursue, your platform has always allowed those stories to be told, and we're proud to say that. I think that our story has been different, and then that should be that's a good lesson for anybody who wants to try something like that.
Absolutely. And if you were to kind of encapsulate in one sentence, both of you, what would you say that you've done to capture your journey?
I think, you know, if I were to think about this, and like, honestly, that we had so many, for me personally, there's so many moments that I'm like, that I've been in awe of, you know, where I've been like, whether it's been on stage and like for the first time having people sing a song that we made sitting in Montreal and just for ourselves, and now there's like 50,000 people singing it, and then, or it's been like, in some cases, being, you know, in the backstage of an amazing show where there's the top artists that we don't get to interact with because we don't live there, and then they're coming up to us and saying, hey, wow, I love your song, you know, and we've always been able to say, hey, let's just take a picture, or like, you know, capture those moments, those really memorable moments, those milestones. I've always been like revisiting everything like that and looking at these old pictures. I'm like, wow, like, we could not have imagined this. We could not have said, this is what we're going to do at this point. That's the artist we're going to interact with. We're going to be at this stage and stuff like that. So for me, it's just this reminder that, okay, a little bit of recklessness, a little bit of, you know, the deepness, you know, just kind of kept it going. And that was a good way for us to get things done.
I love it.
I do want to say she asked in one sentence.
Hey, I didn't stop. I kept going.
I was serious about what I said earlier. Okay? He starts.
You didn't tell me how long the sentence should be.
That's actually true. He does have a point there.
Yeah.
One sentence, I would just say, we have been relentless. And
hey, I said that. You're getting it from me.
You said reckless. We've been relentless. We've been persistent. And I think we've done it in a charming way. That's, I think, our claim to fame.
Absolutely agreed. And I cannot wait till the next time you guys are sitting on my gold couch and we get to just talk about all the other tremendous things that you guys are doing. It's such a pleasure to have you back on my show. And I can't wait till the next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.